Angel Reese, she continued her long-standing tradition last night of not selling out home games.
Fans, Paige Beckers is coming to town. Shout out to Santa Claus. Paige Beckers is, you guys get it. And in their first matchup, they draw a whopping 9,025 people. Where are you guys at? Where are you guys? Where are the Paige Becker supporters? Where are the WNBA supporters? Where are the Reese's Pieces? Where are you guys at? Ooh. Who has the most TikTok followers? Ooh. Who has the most Twitter followers? Ooh. Who has the most Instagram? Who has the most this? Who has the most that? Who has the most viewership? Who has the most attendance? Who has the biggest impact on the game? We all know the answer to that question. I mean, after all, this is the #1 most followed WNBA player on Instagram, followed by the #3 most followed WNBA player on Instagram. And last night, they were in the Wintrust Center, the Wintrust Arena, which holds a capacity of 10. Gonna put on a show. So when you see Angel Reese and Paige Beckers locking horns for the first time in the WNBA, you would expect a sellout.
I guess this was a traumatic experience, but I was also confused as to why this game was being played at Wintrust Arena. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Paige Beckers is a big star, right? According to the mainstream media.
Imagine a symphony hall packed to the rafters, every seat filled with eager anticipation, a collective buzz vibrating through the air before the maestro even steps onto the stage. Now, translate that electric energy to a basketball arena. Just a few short weeks ago, this wasn't just a dream, it was the living, breathing reality for Caitlin Clark's games. The roar of the crowd, the kind of energy that makes the hairs on your arms stand up and sends shivers down your spine, was a regular pulsating testament to her superstar power. Every dribble, every shot, every pass felt like a monumental event. But then, almost overnight, that vibrant picture flickered, dimmed, and threatened to vanish entirely. Picture that same arena just a few days later, sections sitting eerily empty, a stark, unsettling silence replacing the thunderous cheers and the frenzied anticipation. This isn't just about a star player getting hurt, it's about a blinding spotlight being ripped away, and in its sudden absence, it's revealed the unvarnished, uncomfortable truth of a league caught completely unprepared for its own phenomenon. What happens when the WNBA's biggest, brightest, and arguably only mainstream star vanishes from the court? The answer, as we're about to uncover, is far more dramatic, more chaotic, and more revealing than anyone could have possibly predicted. It's exposing every single crack, every weakness, and every fundamental flaw in the league's foundation. A foundation that, as it turns out, was built on surprisingly shaky ground. Get ready, because the full, untold story of how Caitlin Clark's absence triggered a crisis of unprecedented scale is about to unfold. It's a cautionary tale, a saga of what happens when a golden opportunity isn't just missed, but actively mishandled, and how the entire league is now reckoning with the brutal reality of its over-reliance on a single player. The unstoppable. Current. From niche to national sensation, let's cast our minds back just a little. For years, the WNBA existed in a quiet hum, a dedicated and passionate niche league with a relatively modest following. It had its hardcore fans, its loyal supporters, but it rarely, if ever, broke through into the mainstream sports conversation. It fought for headlines, for airtime, for cultural relevance. Then Caitlin Clark arrived. She wasn't just another talented player, she was a force of nature, a cultural phenomenon, a marketing marvel wrapped in a basketball jersey. Her collegiate career at Iowa had already shattered viewership records, proving her immense draw, but her transition to the WNBA, it wasn't just good for the league, it was a seismic, earth-shattering event that instantly redefined its trajectory. Suddenly, almost magically, games were selling out across the country. Arena doors were swinging open to throngs of fans, a sight that had been a distant dream for many WNBA veterans. Viewership records weren't just being broken, they were being annihilated, shattering previous benchmarks across 6 different national networks. People who had never ever given a WNBA game a second glance were tuning in, captivated by her audacious long-range shots, her no-look passes, and her sheer, undeniable charisma. Her Indiana Fever jersey, once a rare sight, became the hottest commodity in sports apparel, flying off shelves faster than the league could restock them. She single-handedly dragged the league, kicking and screaming perhaps, into mainstream relevance, opening doors to a new, unprecedented era of opportunity, exposure, and, most importantly, revenue. This wasn't just a temporary bump in the road. It felt like a permanent, irreversible shift. The future looked boundless, limitless, all thanks to one rookie, the bitter undercurrent, the uncomfortable truth about resentment and hype. But here's where the plot thickens, where the bright light of success reveals the darker shadows lurking beneath the surface. While Clark was busy rewriting the WNBA's financial future, piling up record after record, an uncomfortable, almost palpable undercurrent of resentment began to brew. Think about the stark reality. Many veteran players had toiled for years, even decades, in relative obscurity. They played for modest salaries, often struggling for basic recognition, fighting for media attention. They paved the way, sacrificing and building the league brick by painstaking brick. Then, this young rookie bursts onto the scene, fresh out of college, and immediately commands unparalleled attention, media hype, primetime slots, and an undeniable financial sway that dwarf their cumulative efforts. It's a bitter, bitter pill to swallow, and frankly, some players and even certain league officials simply couldn't or wouldn't hide their feelings. Stephen A. Smith, never one to mince words or shy away from uncomfortable truths, bravely stepped forward. He suggested a deep-seated resentment from some veterans, and even an underlying jealousy from parts of the league's establishment. It's not about Caitlin Clark, he emphatically argued. It's about what she represents. He detailed how some players resented it because they saw the marketing prowess that she had, and how they felt neglected when she arrived. The young white girl comment from Smith, though controversial, spoke to a perceived disparity in attention, a feeling among some veterans that their own contributions had been overlooked for years, only for a newcomer to receive immediate, widespread adulation. This wasn't just a difference of opinion, it was a clash of eras, a collision of hard-earned struggles against instant superstardom, and the emotional toll was evident. This simmering tension didn't just stay in the locker rooms. It fueled a narrative that constantly pitted Clark against other popular players. You had Angel Reese, with her massive social media following, being consistently touted by some media outlets as the face of the league. And then there was Paige Beckers, another rising star with her own huge fan base, who some claim should be the league's biggest draw. But here's the uncomfortable truth: despite all the online buzz, despite massive TikTok and Instagram follower counts, this social media hype just wasn't translating into real-world butts in seats or eyeballs on screens. Take the much-hyped matchup between Angel Reese and Paige Beckers, two of the most followed players in women's basketball, who were expected to fill arenas. It was held at Winrust Arena, a venue that seats about 10,000 fans, yet incredibly it didn't sell out. For a game featuring the #1 most followed WNBA player on Instagram, Reese, against the #3 most followed, Beckers, the crowd was underwhelming. Tickets dropped to as low as $20. And in the entire hour before tip-off, only 41 tickets were sold. 41. That's not just embarrassing, it's a stark contrast to the narratives being spun. Where are you guys at? Where are the Paige Becker supporters? Where are the WNBA supporters? Where are the Reese's Pieces? The original content questions highlighting this massive disconnect between online hype and genuine attendance. This wasn't just an isolated incident either. Angel Reese continued her long-standing tradition of not selling out home games. The WNBA wanted to tout Reese's popularity, but deep down, it was becoming harder and harder to deny. Caitlin Clark was the real engine, the singular force behind the league's momentum and its actual drawing power. Social media followers simply don't equate to ratings or attendance. The unchecked aggression, a glaring omission of protection. This simmering tension, this unspoken resentment, didn't just stay in the locker rooms or manifest as quiet whispers. It unfortunately and overtly manifested on the court, night after night, game after game. Clark found herself subjected to an alarming, almost predatory level of physical play. We saw hard fouls that bordered on tackles, sneaky elbows thrown away from the ball, and borderline assaults. The video clips are out there, stark and undeniable, showing a player absorbing an unusually high volume of brutal contact. It wasn't just standard basketball physicality, the kind that happens in every game. It often felt targeted, intentional, designed to send a message. Caitlin Clark appears to be hunted every game, one observer noted. She deals with physicality that no other player in the league is dealing with. And what was the league's response to this escalating aggression? A deafening, unsettling silence. Referees almost unbelievably swallowed their whistles. Calls that should have been automatic technical fouls or even flagrant fouls were ignored. The WNBA itself, the very body tasked with protecting its players and upholding the integrity of the game, seemed to turn a blind eye, allowing the rough play to continue unabated. It became so blatant, so overtly negligent, that Stephen A. Smith, among other prominent sports analysts, was absolutely furious. He didn't just call it out, he straight up torched the WNBA for what he explicitly called systemic negligence. His words were damning. When a league lets its most valuable player get slammed, hacked, elbowed, and borderline assaulted every night with no consequences, that's not an accident, that's negligence. How, he demanded to know, could they possibly allow the player single-handedly saving their league, their future, to be treated like that? This wasn't just a failure of officiating. It was a profound failure of protection, a complete abdication of responsibility for their most valuable asset, the predictable injury. A costly silence that echoes through the league, so when the news finally broke that Caitlin Clark was out with a left quad strain, it felt less like an unfortunate stroke of bad luck and more like an inevitable, tragically predictable outcome. While injuries are an unfortunate, unavoidable part of professional sports, the context here is critical and frankly infuriating. Was this quad strain a direct result of one specific egregious hard foul? Perhaps not directly, as quad injuries can arise from various forms of stress. However, the cumulative effect of constant, unchecked physicality, the relentless pounding she endured, the forced effort to constantly push her body harder and harder to evade aggressive defensive tactics, undeniably increased her susceptibility to injury. Her body was constantly under duress, forced to absorb blows that other players simply weren't experiencing. This level of increased physicality she'd been dealing with for over a year now was ignored. The WNBA's silence, its inexplicable failure to step in and set a clear, uncompromising boundary against overly aggressive, dangerous play, inadvertently, yet undeniably, set the stage for this moment. It allowed an environment to fester where the league's crown jewel, its most exciting attraction, was left vulnerable, unprotected, and exposed to a relentless onslaught of physicality. The league's inaction essentially condoned the rough play, sending a clear message: it's open season on Clark. Now, that inaction has come back to haunt them, and the entire league is paying the price for a decision that prioritized, well, it's unclear what exactly it prioritized, because it clearly wasn't Clark's well-being or the league's long-term prosperity. Stephen A. Smith summed it up by questioning Commissioner Kathy Engelbert directly. Why in the hell has Kathy Engelbert not stepped in and done something about it? The injury wasn't just a setback for Clark, it was a glaring indictment of the league's leadership and a testament to how jealous and resentful WNBA players they're on their own. The immediate fallout, ratings in freefall, and the looming crisis. The consequences were immediate, brutal, and utterly undeniable. The record-breaking ratings that Caitlin Clark had single-handedly brought to the WNBA, they didn't just dip, they went into a catastrophic freefall. We're talking about games that once drew staggering viewership numbers, peaking at over 1.17 million viewers, collapsing to a mere 394,000 without her. Let that sink in for a moment. Over 1 million viewers reduced to less than 400,000, and it got even worse for some games. A recent Fever game without Clark averaged a paltry 235,000 viewers. That's not just a drop, it's a full-blown implosion. This isn't just about casual viewers losing a little bit of interest and tuning out. It's about the entire fragile structure of the league buckling under the weight of one player's absence. The numbers don't lie, and they tell a devastating story. The WNBA, without Clark's magnetic pull, is not just reverting to its pre-Clark viewership levels. In many cases, it's plunging even lower, as the sudden surge of attention created by Her presence now emphasizes the stark contrast. Networks that were celebrating record highs just weeks ago are suddenly scrambling, desperately trying to drum up excitement around matchups that, frankly, fans simply aren't tuning in for. Those high-definition replays that highlighted her insane three-point range, the viral clips running wild on social media, the constant chatter about her impact, they're all gone. Instead, there's a void, a stark reminder of who was truly driving the audience. The league, exposed, now faces a ratings crisis that threatens to undo all the progress she delivered. Consider the Fever versus Mystics matchup. With Clark playing, the broadcast pulled in an impressive 581,000 viewers. Without her, the same matchup barely cracked 357,000. That's a massive drop. Even more telling, the Liberty vs. Fever game, with Clark on the floor, hit a peak of 3.24 million viewers. Now, when Clark plays on Ion, it's a million viewer game. This isn't just good, it's game-changing for the WNBA, showing what's possible when a player captures the imagination, cuts across demographics, and gives people a reason to care. In stark contrast, games without her, like Sun vs. Lynx, 431,000, or Storm vs. Mercury, 344,000, are struggling to pull in average numbers. These might be decent for smaller markets, but for a league trying to achieve mainstream growth, they fall woefully short of what's needed to sustain momentum. Empty seats and silent cheers. The stadium shift to ghost towns, but it's not just the TV screens showing a desolate picture. The energy, the very soul of the arenas, has deflated completely. The Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark's team, experienced the most dramatic transformation. They went from selling out every single game, packing stadiums with buzzing, roaring fans, to slashing ticket prices in half, and still struggling desperately to fill seats. Entire sections of their arena, which were once electric, vibrating with fan energy and anticipation, are now eerie ghost towns, desolate and quiet. The contrast is jarring, a silent testament to Clark's unparalleled drawing power. This phenomenon isn't confined to Indianapolis either. During Clark's initial run, 4 other teams in the league had previously moved their home games to bigger, more expansive arenas just to accommodate the throngs of fans, the veritable stampedes, coming to see Clark and the Fever. Now, that need is gone. The demand has evaporated. This isn't just a typical attendance dip after a star player gets injured. It's an unprecedented, full-blown disappearance of fans, revealing just how precariously dependent the entire league had become on the singular presence of one player. The WNBA is witnessing a level of fan exodus that is, quite frankly, unheard of in professional sports, starkly illustrating that fans weren't coming for the WNBA, they were coming for Caitlin Clark, and the situation for other stars is equally grim. The Chicago Sky, Angel Reese's team, has had 2 home games against what the media would call high-profile teams, the New York Liberty and the Dallas Wings. Neither game was a sellout. In fact, both games had the exact same attendance, number 9,025. What are the odds of 2 back-to-back high-profile games having the exact same attendance figure? It certainly raises suspicions about how they're reporting ticket sales, leading some to bluntly suggest they might be making up numbers to boost Angel Reese's egos. The fact that cameras never once panned out to show the crowd during the Angel Reese versus Paige Bucher's game, despite it being a high-profile matchup, only fuels this suspicion. For an event of this magnitude, you'd think the WNBA would have moved it to the United Center, the largest arena in Chicago, to maximize attendance. But for some reason, what was called the diva of dump divas, Kathy Engelbert, decided to keep it in the smaller Windrust Arena. This paints a stark picture. The WNBA's self-proclaimed stars simply aren't drawing crowds in the same way Clark does. Beyond the box score, the intangible erosion of excitement. The impact of Clark's absence extends far beyond quantifiable numbers like viewership and attendance. It's about the feeling, the atmosphere, the pervasive why bother attitude that creeps in when the main attraction is gone. Caitlin Clark's games weren't just basketball matches, they were bona fide events. People actively circled dates on their calendars, planning their evenings around her games. They rushed to buy tickets, knowing if they hesitated, they'd miss out on a spectacle. They eagerly anticipated the next highlight, the next viral moment, the next record broken. She brought an intangible excitement, a sense of witnessing history being made every single night. That buzz, that palpable anticipation was her true superpower. With her sidelined, that magnetic pull, that undeniable energy has simply vanished. Merchandise sales, once booming beyond imagination, have plummeted. The WNBA lost not just a player, but its current must-watch status, its mainstream appeal, and its compelling narrative. That kind of collective enthusiasm, once deflated, is an incredibly difficult thing to get back. The league, without its singular star, feels less like a vibrant, growing entity, and more like a collection of teams playing in quiet desperation, trying to recapture a magic that, for now, exists only in memories of Clark's brief but dazzling reign. The excitement, the phenomenon, has been replaced by a lingering question mark over the league's very viability in the public eye. This also brings us back to the disconnect between social media hype and real-world engagement for players like Angel Reese. Reebok went all out for Reese, creating her signature logo and a clothing line, pushing her as the face of the league. But how come that robust marketing, that undeniable online presence isn't translating into attendance? The arena wasn't full, and the broadcast felt low budget for a supposedly marquee matchup, lacking the energy you'd expect. It's a stark reminder that while social media followers are impressive, they don't necessarily equate to ticket sales or national TV ratings. The WNBA has a major problem. The Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark still look like the only real draw. These ratings, in the opinion of some, are pathetic, highlighting a need for the league to change rules to make the game more enjoyable and pull in those all-important casual viewers. The CBA crisis, a cruel twist of fate for all players, and then there's the truly cruel irony of the timing. This injury, this sudden collapse in public interest, couldn't have happened at a worse moment for the WNBA as a whole. The league's collective bargaining agreement, CBA, is expiring, and crucial, negotiations for increased minimum wage salaries, better travel accommodations, and improved overall player conditions are about to begin. For years, WNBA players have fought, battled, and advocated tirelessly for better pay and better treatment, enduring meager salaries and commercial flights while male counterparts in other sports enjoyed private jets and immense financial security. Caitlin Clark's arrival provided the league with unprecedented leverage and a massive, undeniable surge in revenue, promising a brighter, more prosperous future for everyone in the league, not just the stars. This revenue stream, this newfound attention, was meant to empower the players in their demands. Now, with ratings and attendance cratering, with the league's primary revenue driver sidelined, the players, especially those who may have harbored resentment towards Clark's spotlight, are faced with a harsh, undeniable reality. Their strongest bargaining chip has been significantly weakened. The very financial surge that was meant to uplift all boats has now receded, potentially jeopardizing the very salary increases and improved conditions they've long deserved and fought for. It's a bitter, bitter lesson in unintended consequences, a stark embodiment of the phrase, "Be careful what you wish for," because the tide that lifts all boats can also recede, leaving everyone stranded. This injury could not have happened at a worse time for the players who hate her. The Golden Goose Syndrome, a failure of vision and strategy. Stephen A. Smith, in his fiery commentary, hit the nail on the head with brutal accuracy. The WNBA had the golden goose and treated her like a regular bird. Think about the profound truth in that statement. Clark wasn't just a player, she was a marketing dream, a ready-made superstar packaged perfectly for mainstream consumption. She single-handedly sold out arenas, drove a never-before-seen spike in ratings, and had people buying her jersey faster than the league's entire supply chain could possibly keep it in stock. She was the primary reason thousands of people were tuning in, many for the very first time. She did the league's job for them. Yet, despite this undeniable commercial appeal, the league's marketing felt surprisingly generic, almost as if they didn't quite grasp the monumental magnitude of what they had in their hands. Instead of leaning into her infectious energy, her compelling backstory, and her unparalleled ability to command the spotlight, they often treated her like just another season storyline, a fleeting moment of interest. What should they have done? More targeted ad campaigns, deeper integration into mainstream sports media, specific promotions built entirely around her presence, a stronger narrative highlighting her unique impact. But why did they hold back? Was it fear of alienating existing veteran stars? A reluctance to appear to play favorites? Whatever the reason, it was a colossal failure of vision, an inability to recognize and fully capitalize on a once-in-a-generation opportunity that has now tragically slipped through their fingers. Smith explicitly called out the whole bunch of people that didn't want to give Caitlin Clark her shine, including players, announcers, and pundits, adding another layer of internal sabotage to the narrative. This brand malpractice wasn't just limited to how they marketed Clark, it extended to how they presented the league as a whole, especially for games without her. Take Reese's hyped matchup against the Dallas Wings. Instead of a polished, can't-miss broadcast, fans often got a product that felt thrown together, relying on local feeds instead of a cohesive national show. On networks like ION, viewers complained about late returns from commercial breaks, missing crucial plays. That kind of inconsistency makes it incredibly hard for casual fans to take the league seriously or invest their time. The WNBA's biggest problem, as the original content states, is that there's nothing to pull in the casual viewer when Clark isn't playing. They need to figure out how to sell the entire experience, not just one player. Where was the leadership? A masterclass in mismanagement. This entire unfolding mess, according to Stephen A. Smith and countless other observers, didn't happen by accident. It happened by design, or rather by a glaring, almost deliberate lack of it. Smith didn't pull any punches. He directly called out Commissioner Kathy Engelbert for what he unequivocally termed a masterclass in league mismanagement, criticizing her for a profound failure to prioritize Clark's safety and, by extension, the entire league's future. The criticism is blunt, damning, and increasingly difficult to refute. The league took Clark's unprecedented rise for granted, acting as if players with her unparalleled marketability and cultural impact come along every day. They simply don't. Invoke the powerful idiom, "A rising tide lifts all boats," passionately arguing that the league should have jumped on Clark's wave, using her momentum to elevate everyone. Instead, they seemingly resisted it, creating a scenario where people didn't want to do that. The solution to protecting their most valuable asset, he asserted, should have been obvious and immediate. Put a stop to the excessive physicality. But instead, they let her get hammered, elbowed, and targeted game after game, a reckless, almost self-destructive approach that has now come back to haunt them with devastating force. This wasn't just short-sighted, it was a profound misjudgment of the league's most critical asset, leaving its long-term viability in jeopardy. The questions now loom large. Was it a genuine oversight? Or was there a deeper, more complicated reason for the league's inaction, perhaps tied to the very resentment Smith spoke of, a fear of upsetting an established pecking order? Regardless, the celebration in the WNBA, it was cut short yesterday afternoon as WNBA players learned the harsh lesson. Be careful what you wish for. The ripple effect, fragility exposed. Future uncertain Caitlin Clark's injury didn't just pull her off the court, it pulled back the curtain on the WNBA's deepest, most fundamental flaws. It exposed a systemic fragility, a precarious over-reliance on a single individual that goes far beyond one player's talent. This isn't just about the absence of a star player. It's about a league that built its temporary momentum on a foundation of sand, with no viable contingency plan, no backup strategy, no long-term vision beyond riding the wave of one phenomenal rookie. It's about a leadership that seemingly failed to grasp the unique market dynamics Clark created, and a potential internal dynamic of jealousy and resentment that inadvertently or otherwise sabotaged their own golden opportunity. The ripple effects are expanding, touching every aspect of the league, questioning its appeal to future talent, impacting potential sponsorship deals, eroding investor confidence, and forcing a harsh reevaluation of its entire marketing strategy. The WNBA needs to figure out how to maintain interest across all games, not just the ones featuring their biggest star. The league needs players who can pull in casual fans, the same way Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, or Kobe Bryant did for the NBA. Right now, Clark is the only one doing that for the WNBA. The problem is when she's not on the court, there's no one else bringing that same energy. This isn't just speculation, the numbers back it up. Ticket sales have been inconsistent, and the viewer drop-off whenever Clark isn't involved is painfully clear. Is this a wake-up call that the WNBA can somehow respond to and recover from? Or is it a fatal blow, a moment that will forever be remembered as the point when the league had lightning in a bottle, and through a series of missteps and missed opportunities, let it tragically slip through its fingers? The numbers don't lie, and the league's vulnerability is now starkly out there for everyone to see. If this team plays like it played last night, the original commentary states, the WNBA's got a serious problem. You will lose casual viewers if they believe this team is not good. Clark's absence is exposing how fragile the whole system really is, proving that without her star power, everything stalls. Even the excitement surrounding headliners like Angel Reese fizzles without Clark as a direct comparison point. This is disaster, a league too reliant on a single draw. Conclusion, a crossroads for the league and a call to action. So, as we stare into the void left by Caitlin Clark's absence, where does the WNBA go from here? This isn't just a question for Clark's recovery, but a fundamental existential crisis for the entire league's future. Her unexpected and arguably avoidable absence wasn't the cause of all the WNBA's deep-seated problems, but rather the brutal, unignorable symptom of deeper issues the league has long struggled with. How to truly protect its stars, how to effectively manage internal player dynamics, and how to genuinely capitalize on its fleeting moments in the mainstream sun. The spotlight that Caitlin Clark brought to the WNBA was blinding, showing everyone, including the league itself, what was truly possible for women's professional basketball. Now, with her gone from the court, that same intense spotlight is also illuminating what's deeply fundamentally wrong within its structure and leadership. The league's reliance on one or two marquee names is unsustainable. They need a broader engagement strategy, better marketing, and a way to keep fans coming back even when the biggest stars aren't on the court. If these leagues are going to succeed, it's not the hardcore fan. They got to have the casual viewer. And right now, there's nothing pulling those casual viewers in when Clark isn't playing. Can the WNBA pivot, truly learn from this self-inflicted wound, and finally build a sustainable, robust future that prioritizes all its talent before it's too late? Or will this moment be remembered as the golden opportunity they let tragically slip through their fingers, leaving us all to wonder what could have been? After seeing $20 tickets for hyped matchups and arenas that look suspiciously empty, do you believe the WNBA can evolve beyond pure hype? What do you think needs to fundamentally change for the WNBA to not just survive, but truly thrive beyond the presence of any single superstar? How can they regain the momentum they've so quickly lost? Let me know your honest thoughts and predictions in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if it sparked your curiosity, or simply opened your eyes to a crisis unfolding, please don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and subscribe for more deep dives and untold stories. From the fascinating, often tumultuous world of celebrity and sports, your support helps us tell these important stories.